In my next example, actually things are not as obvious, because here actually, looking at it from the first glance, I would say that black's position looks rock solid, but yet there is a problem, and once again with the help of tactical indicators we are able here to find those problems. When we look at this position, we can see already that there is some issue on h7. It's one time attacked, one time protected, so it is a tactical indicator. Now, well, apart from that, everything else looks quite protected. So, of course, here we cannot really look for more unprotected pieces. So we should get already like to the list of pieces in a row in the diagonal or in the file. We see that there is an opposition with the queens. If this is interesting, it's hard to say. We see that the knight and the bishop are in one diagonal together with a rook, so there might be pin ideas with queen e4. However, the bishop on b7 unfortunately is protected, so this actually means that the pin cannot really be exploited. And now already most of you may say, well, I don't see anything which actually could be well, interesting. And then last but not least, the queen on e7 and the rook on f8 are in one diagonal. So that hints us to a motive like a skewer with bishop d6. So altogether we can say d6, well, the problem about those pieces in the diagonal, the h7, which is semi-protected, one time attacked, one time defended, and apart from that, not much. Now we should see how these actually two spots for us are connected with the coordination of white's pieces. Then we can easily spot that the rook indirectly shines on d6, but what is missing, or what is not missing, let's say, but what is the problem, the obstacles on the way to d6 are basically those three pieces. So when we see that rook and bishop hit on d6 and those are the problems, the next question is, can we eliminate these problems in a very, well, quick way or in an efficient way? Then the answer is yes, because we can see d takes c5 and we can see the move c4. Here already, like, it's not easy to answer why we should take on c5 first or why we should play c4 first. However, like, there is a small difference. If we take on c5, then in my opinion, if black ignores the fact, then we win a pawn and we don't have to calculate anything. So that is a good thing about choosing d takes c5. If we play c4, for example, like knight b4, because the knight has to move, and now d takes c5, then at least we have to look for other issues, because now b takes c5 or queen takes c5 are not a must. We have other moves, for example, something along the lines like rook d8 might be interesting, or capture on d3. So it's a lot more to calculate, and for this reason there is no need to go for the complicated move order when there is an easy one. So that's why let's start with d takes c5. If the queen takes or the pawn takes, well, it doesn't matter much, because the tactical weakness, which we mentioned at the beginning, is still the same, because the queen on c5 would also be in the same diagonal. So in the game, d takes c5 was played, b takes c5, and now c4. The knight has to move. Well, still I believe that the most active square for the knight is knight b4 as played in the game, but actually doesn't matter where the knight goes, because it doesn't stop white from executing his initial plan. So knight b4 was played, and now d6 is almost, well, avoidable. At the first glance it looks like that still the square is unprotected, but now the other tactical indicator, which we mentioned at the start, is getting into is taking place, because now if, for example, like bishop d6, which is the best move in this position, queen takes d6 is more or less forced. I mean, it's not forced, of course, but it's like the obvious reply. Then bishop takes h7, and actually white is winning huge material. If the queen goes away, let's say to e8, then we can take on f8, and we also win material. So we win the exchange, and we are happy because we have a better position. And well, the other alternative is to first take on h7, but then we would already give one bishop, taking on h7 back, bishop d6, and now we would give the second bishop, and that means we give two bishops against the rook at the end, and therefore, of course, the first variation with bishop d6 immediately is preferred, and here white won material and later the game. But when we look back at the beginning, nobody would have guessed that he has some tactics, and that's why actually the help of identifying tactical indications is helpful or useful, because then it will definitely not only improve your sense of tactics, but also will sometimes make you more cautious to blunders, because when you have a lot of unprotected pieces in your game, then it's clear that there might be double attacks, for example, or when you have a bad coordination with a lot of pieces in a row, diagonal, or file. Now you know that these actually bad coordinations can lead to skewers or to pins, and therefore you will be in future more cautious and probably blunder less.